For all our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime, and I am Kemini Amano. We begin the news this hour in West Africa, where it's looking like more party drama for the new Nigerian Peoples Party, NNPP, as the party leader, Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso, has now been suspended by the Board of Trustees for actions that were deemed a violation of the party's constitution. This was made known at a General Assembly meeting held in Lagos, where some acting board members who were recently elected were also inaugurated and presented to the party. Bernard Akede was at the Board of Trustees General Assembly meeting and filed a report, which we'll bring you a little later. But we'll stay on the matter because in a swift reaction to the suspension of former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso from the NNPP for 6 months, a group within the party convened a NEC meeting in Abuja also on Tuesday and expelled party chieftains Boniface, Aniebonam, and Agbo Major. The NEC also moved several other motions relating to the logo of the party, the amendment of the constitution, ratification of the state caretaker committees, and suspension of 2 articles in the constitution of the NNPP 2022. The Abuja group declares the decision of the Lagos group as null and void and to no effect. The meeting of the Abuja group was attended by the governor of Kano State, Abba Kabir Yusuf, I beg your pardon, as well as other party stalwarts such as Kawu Ismaila and Buba Galadima. Adeni Ikuno is a political analyst, is joining me to unpack this latest development and crisis brewing within the NNPP. Adeni, thank you so much for your company here. But the Lagos faction of the NNPP, as we've said, is accusing Kwankwaso of involving himself in anti-party activities by holding meetings with flag bearers of other political parties. We also know that there is, swift reaction to that. What's your take on the storm that is brewing already at work within the NNPP?
Well, I had expected this particular storm to have brewed earlier, knowing full well that there's a mantra in politics, which is that the only permanent thing is interest. No enemies, no friends stay permanently within politics, but the interest is the only common factor. Now, the party understands that Rabiu Kwankwaso, as it is the leading voice, and in recent time, he's been having meetings with the APC. For those who do not know, well, they need to do a little bit more research and actually check their sources. There are certain deals that he's been making with the APC, which is often not splattered on the pages of papers, and that has to do with how he could also leverage a lot of strength regarding the strength of the party. So those things are there. So for the faction, I was even expecting the faction to have come earlier when he had his first meeting with President Boniface in France. These things are not just mere sayings. There are actual incidences in terms of how they can consolidate their strength and also bring the party close to themselves, because the northwestern zone of the country, where Kano is located, is very significant in the nation's politics, just like wanting to play games or wanting to align with a political party leader in Lagos or in some other parts of the country. So as far as we are concerned, it also is a reflection of the fact that political ideologies in this part of the world appears to be transient. Nobody stays in a political party for long, and such things are what we see.
Speaking of factions, the Abuja faction has declared Kwankwaso's suspension as null and void. Should we say there is a political hand of God that has invaded the party's affairs?
Well, let's say that loyalties are always everywhere. As you know, as somebody who is also within the media circles, we've got factions. When I spoke for a presidential candidate in the African Democratic Congress, there were factions. And if you look at it, it is in this part of the world that we have such factions as it is, without taking things to the ideological point. Now, the party's headquarters, they may have a building in Abuja, but that party has a strong foothold in Kano, where it has made success of its political ideologies and entrenchments. So for the Abuja faction, let's look at what we call them, the faction. We know at some point in the political dispensation, I think the 7th or 8th assembly, the PDP had some factions led by Bukola Saraki that went to the APC and later returned. So the faction oftentimes are of lesser strength, but they are born out of solidarity for the figure that appears to be persecuted. Except, of course, the party cleans the audience table. The faction may be thrown out with the bathwater. Don't forget that oftentimes the factions are not recognized, but the figure that is the rallying head is recognized. But of course, NNPP also understand that Rabiu Kwankwaso is a key figure in this nation's politics and somebody who has made a very strong statement by the successes recorded at the last elections. So you cannot cut your nose to spite your face. You have to look at the essence of join rather than going to war at this point. And I think that the
which is why Adeni, I wanted us to just piggyback off on something that you spoke earlier about Kwankwaso's meetings with President Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar, which is something that the faction that ousted him has also spoken about. How harmful are such meetings, considering that in the political climate of things, these are his political peers?
I think that if you have the president of the country give you room for a meeting, by virtue of his position, that is 10 steps ahead. If you're talking about the political peers, I think that it is also a recognition of the fact that somebody garnered over 1 million votes to take the ruling political parties to the cleaner in a major election. And those ones are pointers to the fact that this is somebody you must negotiate with. And let us also say, for the NNPP that has definitely come to the fore within the political activities of the country to demonstrate that it has the capacity to achieve results if its efforts are concerted. Anybody, including myself, if I were leading a party, would pay attention, because you're talking about a political party that actually recorded a landslide where you have 44 local governments. No other part of this country has up to 44 local governments.
Right.
It did the same with the governorship. It did the same with the presidential election. It is a reflection of something that is worthy of being noted. So if you're talking about what the peers are saying, there is a communication by that result, by that action. And the meeting is key. So for all the ruling party, obviously they've seen that it is need to collaborate, because don't also forget that the political, yes, I'm listening to you, please.
No, I was just going to say that it's always a pleasure talking to you, and to thank you for your time once again. Adeni Ikunu is a political analyst. Absolutely. I hope there is more time in the future to discuss this matter.